Everyone, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our AMA. My name is Johnny, and I'm a research analyst from LTP. Today, me and Monica, our head of marketing from LTP, we are thrilled to be speaking today with Amin, director of Ceffu, and also Edouard, head of marketing from Ceffu. For information, Ceffu is a leading custodian in the digital asset industry. So in recent months, there's been increased focus and also concern around protecting assets and mitigating counterparty risk, especially after some high-profile incidents associated with some centralized exchanges. So as the digital asset space matures, more prime brokers and custody services are becoming more critical for providing investors with security and also peace of mind. And today we are introducing Ceffu, a leading custodian for digital assets, and we'll be discussing Ceffu's solutions and their efforts to expand their business and services, and also discuss something about the partnership with LTP, because we're offering more protection and solutions for traders during this market environment. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Amin and also Edouard. Thank you both for joining us today. How are you doing, guys?
It's great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yep, that's great. Maybe we can start with Amin. Can you tell us more about yourself, your background, and what you do at Ceffu?
Of course. So I come from a bit more of a traditional background. I started in private banking with Société Générale before moving to a Middle East-focused multifamily office dealing with all asset classes from portfolio management and venture capital to art and private jet financing, as well as everything in between. My move into crypto came with BlockFi, where I worked across private client and institutional sales. And I joined Ceffu towards the start of this year, where I head up sales and relationship management across EMEA and LATAM.
Thanks, Amin. That's a very professional background from TradFi. And what about you, Edouard? Would you like to share more about yourself?
Sure. So my background's pretty diverse. I've pivoted roles in industries a few times, so I got a good taste of the digital creative agency side, working mostly on the business development in the US. I've had brand strategy and copywriting roles for agencies and crypto companies in Shanghai and Hong Kong. I worked in architecture and interior design, which is a little bit out of the range of ordinary. And I've been in institutional marketing specifically for crypto for over 2 years. But I've been working on B2B businesses for close to 5 years. My role with Ceffu essentially focuses on growing our visibility and reach across global markets. Since we're entirely B2B, obviously, many aspects of my role center more on the sales side of marketing, which is why Amin and I work very closely together. As a business, we've been around for just about 1.5 years, which is arguably the newest out of most established institutional custodians. So we do have a bit of catching up to do, but we've been catching up pretty quickly.
All right, yeah. So can you tell us, how did Ceffu come to life and how is it positioned in the industry currently and in the near future?
Sure, I'll take that one. So Ceffu was actually not always known as Ceffu. Previously, we were known as Binance Custody. So it's always been an independent business launched December 2021 to essentially address a wide range of institutional needs that clients may typically engage a custodian for. So you have your cold storage, solution, and possibly other standalone services such as native staking or third-party escrow. But the value add of then Binance Custody and now Ceffu has really been our partnership with the Binance ecosystem. So the types of institutions we work with range from, on one end of the spectrum, you have the crypto projects, the L1s and L2s, foundations, to the other end of the spectrum being more asset managers, prop traders, prime brokers like LTP. Those firms benefit immensely from our gateway to the Binance Exchange through our off-exchange settlement solution that we have officially rolled out previously in January that we called Mirror. So Ceffu is the only custodian that has integrated Binance into its Mirror solution. So Binance remains the biggest exchange across the markets, spot and derivatives by a large margin, no pun intended. And that positions us as a very attractive destination for institutions that look for that deep liquidity while wanting to minimize counterparty risk when accessing an exchange.
Thank you. That's some very good, cool features. And, Binance integration is really a big part of, the eye-catching product. And I really appreciate that. And delving into some technical side, I think I have a question for Amin. From a general trader point of view, can you tell us the overall Ceffu's technology solutions? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say broadly speaking, we have three solutions available to our clients. Our qualified wallet, which is our enterprise grade cold storage solutions with assets being segregated and kept offline in a bank grade vault. Mm-hmm. Our cosign wallet, which is a warm solution for clients who wish to hold one of their key shares and participate in all transaction signing approvals, with the 2 remaining key shares being held with Ceffu. And our Prime wallet, which is our hybrid hot and cold solution with network agnostic withdrawals and a portion of funds being periodically swept into cold storage. So it offers our clients a kind of best of both worlds, both security and speed. And wrapped into all of that, all of our wallets are powered by multi-party computation, so to ensure essentially that there is no single point of failure.
I see. And, some traders would also like to know, how does, Ceffu Mirror work, and how does it ensure the security of users' assets?
Yeah, so after onboarding with Ceffu, clients are able to link their Ceffu wallet to their Binance trading accounts. And through Mirror, they can delegate their assets to trade on the exchange, with their assets actually remaining under Ceffu's protection in custody. On top of that, from a security point of view, on top of our MPC, clients are able to set up their own multi-approval scheme, which assigns specific team members within their organization. They assign specific team members within their organization to the platform and distribute approval responsibility between them. So it's an N of M solution. The example being that if 5 team members are added to a client's qualified wallet, they could set it so that 3 of those members have to approve any transactions. And then for institutions looking for a bit more flexibility to define parameters, enhance their governance requirements, they can do that through our transaction approval policy, our TAP, whereby custom rules can be set that dictate limits and boundaries of movements of their digital assets within their account. So we see this as an ideal solution for clients operating multiple wallets and wanting to customize security features based off of that.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I want to follow up a bit. And as a trader, I would like to know, is it instantaneous that if I deposit my funds in the Ceffu, and then would it be reflected in my Binance account immediately, or
Yes. So essentially with Mirror and with the auto settlement features of our new off-exchange settlement, or our latest off-exchange settlement, Mirror X, clients are also able to withdraw their assets anytime from their designated Binance sub account or from their Ceffu account. So, in short, yes, once the client delegates funds, they are instantly reflected in their Binance account. There is, of course, just a bit of work to be done beforehand, linking the 2 accounts, but it's actually a very, very smooth process.
I see. Thanks, I mean, for the answer. And apart from Binance, are you guys expanding your business and services to other centralized exchanges?
I can answer that. So at this point, we're really just closely working with Binance, obviously being the biggest crypto exchange. Part of it obviously being that we want to focus on developing and enhancing the service functionality of Mirror and Mirror X that Amin just mentioned, and the user experience. So essentially our newest off-exchange settlement solution, being called Mirror X, marks a major milestone for us in our company's competitiveness and positioning in the market to go head-to-head with other solutions. And like I said earlier, Ceffu's only a year and a half old. So while we don't rule out the possibility that we would consider potentially down the line to offer the service with other crypto exchanges. For now, we're really just focused on building and nurturing our relationship with our current partner, which is Binance. And obviously that's been a major attraction for a lot of institutions.
I see. That's a great point. And, as the industry becomes more mature, there are more custodians coming out. And in your point of view, what do you guys think about a good custodian and what makes Ceffu stand out from them?
I think custodians should aim to build an ecosystem where institutions aren't having to compromise on their security, on the security of their crypto assets to participate in, let's call it, digital asset economy, but at the same time provide connectivity to liquidity providers. So a strong tech and product setup combined with a solid legal framework to ensure asset safety. But considering that, I mean, we see it, or I personally see it, that there's a lot of custody is built off of trust. Those features should be underpinned by a strong team that is always open and communicating with their clients and stakeholders, getting feedback and developing new products based off of this to ensure that you are targeting and you are developing features for your clientele and what is requested by them. And I mean, we certainly believe at Ceffu that we're ticking all of those boxes.
That's good to hear. Thanks, Amin. Would like to talk a little bit about the upcoming partnership of LTP and Ceffu. Monica, would you take it?
Yeah. So this part we're gonna dive a little bit more about the Ceffu partnership with LTP. So by integration with Ceffu, so LTP now can provide our users a very secure getaway to access Binance. So the assets can be safeguarded in a segregated Ceffu co-wallet, ensuring their protection and also managing the positions on the exchange. So in addition, our users and also the institutions have flexibility to settle their mirror position whenever they choose. So the feedback we're actually receiving from the current Ceffu users are very, very positive. Because the features are pretty powerful. So I think our integration provides the institutions a very seamless and efficient way to access the deep liquidity offered by Binance, while at the same time securing their asset security. From your perspective, what do you think about this partnership?
I can take that. So what I find, and I'm sure obviously people would agree, what I find really great about our collaboration is that it really is the perfect example of a synergistic partnership between two companies that essentially share the same values of mission of empowering institutions with world-class top-grade services and infrastructure to really help them unlock the potential of the digital assets. So when it comes to our mirror solution, integrated with the LTP platform via API, LTP now effectively helps its client manage or minimize counterparty risk while offering access to the market's deepest liquidity. So our mirror solution essentially addresses the demand of institutional players like LTP, who seek security in the industry. And based on that, we really look forward to growing this partnership so that we can continue essentially enabling the future of finance that we all love to talk about through innovative digital asset solutions together. So it's really good to have this platform that essentially brings the best of two worlds. And yeah, it's been a really fruitful partnership so far. So really looking forward to seeing where this goes.
Yeah, thank you, Edouard. Also, I have another question for you guys. So can you provide any other successful stories which demonstrate the positive impact of Ceffu's solutions on client businesses?
So I'd say, obviously, without disclosing any sensitive client information, I think what I can say is that close to 60% of all assets in Ceffu's custody are used to trade on Binance via Mirror, and that in general we've doubled our AUC in under 12 months. So our clients are looking for that secure base from which to access liquidity on Binance. And I mean, Ceffu is clearly fulfilling its mission to facilitate mass institutional adoption by providing the most secure and convenient gateway to the world's deepest liquidity. So I think within that, we have numerous successful stories. I, of course, just can't go into detail as to what they are.
I see. Thanks, Amin.
Thank you.
I also want to know, from your point of view, how has institutional interest changed over time? And maybe you can also tap a little bit more into how has Ceffu grown in 2023?
I mean, specifically like this year, I think there's been a big shift and a lot of interest to custodians because the focus has been on security and trust. And that's why we've seen our AUC grow as a firm. So, I mean, market risk is always going to exist. It's what traders and our clients, et cetera, are used to. Many of them actually embrace it because they embrace the volatility. That's where and how they can make their money, and they know how to mitigate that. Counterparty risk is something that it can be direct, it's not necessarily within a trader's direct remit. And that's where we as custodians come in. So when dealing with centralized exchanges and centralized players, I think clients are now more worried about a black swan event that brings down a centralized player than a hack, which, what it used to be, are centralized exchanges vulnerable to hacks. I think that is now shifted towards the DeFi side of things, and it is more about these black swan events. And that's where we as custodians can provide our clients that secure base, knowing that they can access that liquidity, continue their trades, continue to go and make money, but know that should something happen, they will be protected.
I see. Thanks.
Yeah, I can add to that as well.
Sure.
I think it's obviously all of everything that Amin has just mentioned is really on point. To piggyback on what he just shared, what's also been an obvious kind of recurring theme in the industry and a hot topic of discussions is really regulation. So regulating digital assets is very complex and arguably can have positive or challenging effects depending on obviously who you ask and how it's implemented with regards to innovation, investor protection, which is obviously the core of custodians' businesses, market stability, adoption. I think especially this year, at least for myself, we've seen reports of large institutions on two sides, right? We've seen reports of large institutions doubling down on crypto and others exiting the market. I think the most recent example that I can at least talk or at least remember is NASDAQ that recently announced that they were backing out of the custody business, even though they announced a few months, I think late last year, that they were going to launch it. So there's a mixed bag between institutions feeling bearish and bullish about where the industry is headed. What I've also read, at least, is many reports published on the matter would point to a generally favorable direction in terms of not just this year but beyond, especially for institutions. Interestingly, and again, this is I think my opinion. Obviously, we're at a point now where, from a pure capitalist and competitive point of view, there's just too much money involved in digital assets for especially traditional financial players to ignore it and walk away. And obviously, clear regulation, I think, is going to play a huge part in unlocking that next tranche of institutional capital. So what will be interesting to look at over the course of the next few months, obviously more regulations are being laid out, and even past that is kind of a domino effect of more institutions, both traditional and crypto native, doubling down on crypto because essentially everybody else is doing it. Well, not everybody else, but a lot of other people are doing it. So as an institutional custodian, we basically stand at the perfect intersection between different areas, whether it be the traditional space, Web 2 and Web 3, that basically facilitates institutions' participation into the space, or to help those institutions who are already in it to grow within it. Sorry, those are a bit of rambling.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for sharing the trend. So we do see a lot of institutions like joining this digital asset space, and everybody is talking about how custodians can play a very important role in this ecosystem. So this question will be for both of you. So what do you think of the future of the digital asset custody will look like? So is there any like a pathway for the products and the services in custody that can make it easier for this average financial market participant to use, the entry barrier, like the things like that? Yeah.
Sure. That's a really good question. And I think this is a question that comes up quite regularly because it's important to ask. The way I would interpret it and the way I would address it is in three parts. I think the first, and I think we're already seeing it in the industry, I find it that it's a matter of preference. So whether you're talking about retail or institutional investors, some may prefer to bear the full responsibility of keeping their private keys and securing their assets through self-custody. So that's one end of the spectrum. And on the other, others might prefer to entrust the security of their assets with an expert like Ceffu. And that's okay. I think we need the proliferation of security-first innovations to really move our industry forward. But it's important to build them, obviously, affordably. So the second point really is institutional custody, at least obviously for ourselves, because we're an institutional custodian. What we've seen from talking to clients, it can also be very expensive. We're constantly absorbing feedback from clients on their experience with the industry, and the consensus is that more established custodians or other players in the market, in general, who have been around for many years, due to their longer existence, typically charge much higher fees. So our primary focus for us is to really want to lower that barrier to entry and allow institutions of any size to come in and participate in the digital asset economy. And I think, obviously the product is important, but you always have that first layer of smaller asset management firms or smaller crypto projects or any kind of businesses that are sort of starting out or trying to scale. It can make it very difficult for them to do so if they have to eat up really high fees over time. So I think the second on lowering the barrier to entry is really key. And I would say the third is, and that's applicable to both retail and institutional investors as well, really building user-friendly interfaces, I think, is key to facilitating more adoption. Web3 can be very complex, especially on the retail side. Institutions who are obviously used to certain rudimentary but also quite straightforward interfaces, they really just want something that's very efficient. And it's done both through the actual user experience, user interface, but also the actual experience that Amin mentioned before on being able to instantaneously, for example, mirror or delegate assets from Ceffu to Binance. Really wanted to make sure that institutions, clients of LTP and institutions using MirrorX really are able to maximize their capital efficiency, while also obviously minimizing that counterparty risk that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I'll add just a tiny bit to that. I think obviously Ed sums it up very, very well. There's not too much to add. I think the one point about what potential new products and services come into play in the custody, in the custody side of things, I think we're yet to see. I think we're playing a bit of a cat and mouse game, waiting for these, as you mentioned, Monica, the kind of average financial market participant to enter the space, to enter at least the custody side of things, so that we can understand a bit better what they're after and look to build it off of them. So are they going to have a focus on staking? Is it going to be access to DeFi somehow? So as they come into play, we as custodians will adapt and develop new products to suit their needs. But I think it's a very, very interesting space going forward.
Yeah.
And I actually want to follow up a bit on the question that a lot of people are staking their assets on DeFi, and then there are absolutely risks involved with that, and how does Ceffu provide a staking option while mitigating the risks associated with that?
Yeah, I mean, we clients are able to stake natively through our solutions, through our qualified wallet. Is one way. So you have your assets safe there in your cold storage, and you're able to delegate them and stake them through the nodes that we are, with which we're connected. But additionally, they are able to actually utilize our mirror function, mirror funds onto Binance, and then stake natively through Binance. So we're giving clients a couple of different options to be able to access staking while having that security in place.
I see. Thanks. Good to hear that. And are there any misconceptions or questions about digital asset custody that you guys find yourself commonly being asked, or you want to clarify here?
I mean, you want to take that one?
There are, of course there are common misconceptions, but I think probably the most common one, and kind of to keep it simple, is the idea from those outside of the industry or not, that haven't dealt with custody before, is that there is a, one size fits all custody solution that's going to please every market participant. Asset managers, prime brokers, protocols all have different requirements. And every client has different needs depending on what they're aiming to achieve. And so it's about having some flexibility within your solutions as a custodian to be able to cater to those specific needs. And then, you are clarifying certain things on a case-by-case basis, depending on who you're talking to, what their background is, and what they are trying to do. Because, we are here, especially in OC, we are here to help our clients grow. We want to provide them with that security to be able to go and trade confidently, on the Binance exchange. So the clarifications will just come case by case, depending on what we can do to make them comfortable and work to build and grow relationships with all of our clients.
Yeah, I would add. Obviously, Amina has more client-facing time. What I have found, probably not necessarily, obviously always, is that sometimes people in general or smaller firms would think that custodians or institutional custodians, especially, are primarily for large institutions. And it goes back to the point I was talking about earlier, right? The fact that a lot of or some custody services can be very expensive, and therefore it doesn't make sense for smaller sized firms to be able to eat that cost if they're trying to really scale. So it's a bit of a misconception thinking that obviously institutional custodians are primarily for larger institutions that can obviously have the size to be able to take the cost. So it goes back to wanting to lower that barrier to entry by saying, well, actually, this is our fee structure. It's one of the most competitive because for us, again, we're young. We're a year and a half old, but we do have the world's biggest exchange as a partner. So that adds extra value. So we kind of have that balance between, we're young and we're growing fast, but we also want to remain competitive and as inclusive as we can be. Because if we really want to all work towards achieving mass adoption, we got to do what we preach, and this is a way to do it through offering competitive services at competitive prices.
I see, and I kind of agree that there's a lot of work to do for the educational side, especially when you are dealing with
for sure, absolutely, yeah. I mean, some of the infrastructure. It can be both complex, but also very straightforward in terms of institutions that are quite used to how these services work. But Amin would speak more on the education side for sure. But I think that's always the theme across the whole industry, retail institutions, wanting to make sure that everyone's working on educated information.
Yeah. As a research analyst, I'm also working on a lot of the educational part. For any company, and that's really a huge part in moving the industry.
Yeah,
And Monica, do you have any extra questions or anything you want to add on here?
Yeah, I think we are all good. So those questions are all from our current users and potential users. So they really excited about like this integration, like the Ceffu and the LTP. And of course, we are still like do a lot of pilot. I know there are mere X, and there will be more developments from the Ceffu side. We can test, and we can also to like get more users on board. I think there's a lot of things happening in the coming months, and also like in the future as well. Yeah, so like very I appreciate that we can spend some time and talk about all the details, so we can share this for our like audience and our users. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you both. Yeah, thanks so much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting conversation, and I'm sure it will benefit our audience a lot. And thank you for your time today.
Looking forward to hearing the feedback.
And so if you want to check out more details about Ceffu's offering and the LTP's offering, please check the link below, and also follow us on the social media so you can keep yourself informed about the latest developments. I'll see you in the next session.